Heard of Q broadcast? It's taking the world by storm. People are cutting the cord to their high cable bills and moving away from streaming services like Netflix, Hulu, and others for something better. Q broadcast. For just $60 a month, you'll get access to every channel you could ever want, including HBO, Cinemax, and Stars. And the best part? There are no contracts, no hidden fees, and you're free to cancel anytime. With Q Broadcast, you can enjoy streaming live TV, movies, and top series on up to 5 devices at once. Whether you're at home or on the go, Q Broadcast makes sure your entertainment is always at your fingertips. Imagine being able to watch all your favorite channels from anywhere, anytime, without any restrictions. We're talking about thousands of movies, hundreds of TV series, and a huge library of live channels, all in one place. And don't forget video on demand and pay-per-view events. Those are included at no extra cost, so you'll never miss a big event again. Now, take a second and think about your current cable bill. You're probably paying anywhere between $100 and $300 every month, locked into long-term contracts and hit with surprise rate increases. With Q Broadcast, that's a thing of the past. It's just $60 a month. No contracts, no extra fees, no hidden costs, and no price hikes. Why juggle multiple subscriptions like Netflix, Hulu, and cable when Q Broadcast gives you everything you need in one convenient package? People everywhere are switching to Q Broadcast, saving money and getting more content than ever before. So, what are you waiting for? Click the link in the description and sign up for Q Broadcast today. Just $60 a month, no contracts, no hidden fees. It's time to take control of your entertainment and start streaming smarter.
We live in a world where men are told it's harmless. It's just entertainment. But let's stop lying to ourselves. Pornography destroys. It weakens your spirit. It dulls your drive. And it robs you of what real intimacy is supposed to be. Every click is a step away from the man you're supposed to be. We can't call ourselves leaders if we are slaves to a screen.
As someone that is prior service, I know all about discipline. And discipline isn't out there, it's within your mind. Porn rewires your brain, weakens your will, wrecks all of your relationships. It doesn't just stay on a screen, it invades your marriage, your confidence, and your actual purpose. As men, if we don't learn to discipline ourselves, we'll be ruled by our impulses. Now, it is time to stand up and take control before this silent war takes more than you're willing to lose.
Real men don't hide in the shadows of shame. We step up and we protect what's ours. We fight for our wives and kids, our own hearts. Twitter isn't just an app, it's a weapon. It's a tool used to break free and start living like the man that you're meant to be. The battle's here and it starts with you. You can stop living in shame and you can break free today.
Here at the Anomic Age, we know that these times of uncertainty are stressful. It is incumbent upon all of us to put our fears first and bow down to government tyranny. Gone are the days of freely leaving your home, working, and social interactions. In exchange for safety, we will trade liberty. At the Anomic Age, we understand. However, just in case you want to get off your knees and stop being a sniveling coward, check out the John Age Project at anomicage.com.
Meet Ann Morrissey, who is here with her daughter, Dareth. Dareth is 17 years old. Mrs. Morrissey, I don't have to tell you that most parents would be extremely depressed if their daughter came home one day looking like this. I assume that was your response shock, anger, depression? What was it?
I was extremely angry. I really went bananas.
Yeah, how old was she when this happened?
Possibly 13, 14 years old.
We're talking like it's a disease, isn't it?
Well,
Yeah. How did she explain it to you, Mrs. Morrison?
there was very poor communication until we went into counseling. And it almost broke up our family. But through counseling and Serena, I can understand it better.
What do you understand?
That she feels like she doesn't want to be like everyone else, and she wants to be her own person. And through the dress code and her lifestyle, she's expressing this. It doesn't conform with our rules, but we're learning to cope, and it's a very, very difficult thing. Extremely difficult.
Dareth, let's let you talk for yourself. You're from Long Beach, California.
I just can't handle being like everybody else because that's what everybody else wants, you know. Just because somebody else does something does not mean that I have to do it. You know, I have my own morals and ideals, and I go by them.
Are you drug-free, Dareth?
Yes, I am.
Is this a political statement then? Do you have some misgiving about the society that you see?
Yeah, there's a lot of problems, you know. A lot of the people are really aware of what's going on, you know, and I don't like it, you know. There's a lot of problems. I don't like the way society is based.
What bothers you? Give us some of the misgivings you have.
The rich, the poor, the people starving, the wars, you know. Why can't, you know, everybody just get along and just live their life?
Here at the Anomic Age, we know that these times of uncertainty are stressful. It is incumbent upon all of us to put our fears first and bow down to government tyranny. Gone are the days of freely leaving your home, working, and social interactions. In exchange for safety, we will trade liberty. At the Anomic Age, we understand.
Selling real and Chevy.
Propagating truth in a world of lies. You are listening to the John H. Project.
Trust no one. Trust no one. Trust no one.
You found it. You're here. You're headlong down the runaway train that is the Anomic Age, and I am your host, John H. Happy to be back with you once again, taking into the dark side of the AM, hailing proudly from the coastal plains of the Old North. I'll be your tour guide this evening as we take a somewhat satirical journey down the path of murder, destruction, mayhem, and the extermination of human life on this planet. A forced march into obsolescence thrust upon us by a global satanic death cult of pedophiles. Check out anomicage.com if you've not already done so. Please like all the likes. Subscribe to all the subscriptions. PayPal.me/anomicage. Patreon.com/anomicage as well. Those are the best ways that you can actually help me out around here and contribute to the show. So please consider going there to anomicage.com. We got the free iPhone app, Android app. Subscribe by email link. Buy me a cup of coffee. Patreon link. What am I missing, folks? What am I missing? Lightning link, Satoshis, the Cash App. I didn't already say that. I highly encourage you to become a patron. But if you can't do that, I know the holiday season's among us still, and times are tough. We still got Leprocalia coming up in February. So still got some money to urinate away in the first few months of this year. But if you can do no more, you can go to anomicage.com. Looks a lot like that. Woo, without that. And you can check it out. All right. So we got that off of our chest, so to speak. Huh? So much to get into this evening, don't we, ladies and gentlemen? Title of tonight's episode: New Year, Same Agenda. That's exactly what we got going on, folks. It is indeed the new year, but the same stinking agenda. So I always kind of find it funny. We just got through with Saturnalia in December, and then we're up to the celebration of Janus here, December 31st into January 1st, with this, of course, where January gets its name from the Roman god Janus. It's a two-faced deity, in case you've never seen it. It's one's looking forward and one's looking backwards, and it's, of course, on January 1st is when the Romans celebrated Janus. And it actually comes from another holiday. It comes from the Babylonian holidays, of course, more paganism. But in case you missed it, that's where January comes from, is Janus. And that's, of course, absolutely Smurfly, where we celebrate the new year, looking forward and looking back at the same time. Celebrating January, Anero. All right, so much to get into this evening, because we're going to tackle the obvious that you're seeing on your screen there. We're going to get into just that, the New Year, same agenda. We're going to get into what we saw, ABC, Times Square nonsense going on. There's so much to delve into. I'm not really sure where to start. Well, I'll start with this one. This is kind of a little bit off topic. I usually save the news for the end, but what the heck? It's kind of applicable, I think. So in case you missed it, Bridget Bardot died right before the new year. Famous actress, really just an international sex symbol. France, but we won't hold that against her. But Bridget Bardot, like so many, kind of hung up her boots from the occult world of Hollywood many years ago. And I wasn't even aware of this. I mean, I don't even follow any of these people. But Bridget Bardot, definitely one of those people that was leaning more on the conservative side of things. Oh my goodness. And if you follow me on social media at all, which you should if you're not already, I'm on the Twitter, I'm on the Facebook. What else am I on there? Odyssey, YouTube, Rumble, BitChute, pretty much anything that you would typically assume to find me on. And check out my YouTube channel. It doesn't get any love. They screwed me a couple years ago, and I wasn't on for a couple years, and then finally they still wouldn't give me my page or any of my followers back. So I started over from scratch. Obviously, it's shadow banned out the yin yang. I don't think they're letting anyone see anything I do. I'm darn right funny now. But I have started posting some shorts on YouTube, which seems to be getting a little bit of traction, but not anything to speak of. So check out the YouTube if you haven't already done so, and the Twitter too. Twitter's screwing me as well. They're trying to say that anything I post is spam. So as I said on the last episode, it would make my cockles of my heart warm if you'd go ahead and share those links all over Twitter. It would make me giggle inside, I must say. But anyway, back to the topic at hand. What I was trying to cover was Bridget Bardot. Her death, I think she was well into her 90s, so it wasn't due to the COVID hoax. It wasn't due to drugs, nor alcohol, nor suicide, and she didn't appear to be taken out by the NWO. She appeared to just die of natural causes in old age, but that did not stop the usual suspects on the left. They masquerade as Democrats, but we know what they really are. They're Luciferian death cult pedophiles known as communist trash. So that didn't stop the communist trash, specifically this creature from the Black Lagoon. Oh, my heavens to Murgatroyd. After queer writer Emma Spector accused Bridget Bardot of being defined by ugliness. Defined by, this is a quote apparently from this creature. Bridget Bordeaux, I mean, international sex symbol for decades, is defined by ugliness. I'm not going to, it's going to be difficult, folks. I'm not going to say what I'd like to say. I'm just going to say, take a look at the imagery on your screen and take a gander at who might actually be defined by ugliness. Defined by ugliness, Islamophobia, and far-right views. Vogue's X page was flooded with so many negative comments that they removed the link. This is Emma Spectre. Whew, looking like a specter. It's that old Dio song, like a rainbow in the dark. My goodness gracious sakes alive. You better hope you see this creature in the dark. It's scary, baby. It's scary. This is Emma. Her pronouns are she, her. Anyway, so this creature from the Rainbow Lagoon is, of course, calling Bridget Bordeaux bad. She's shaking her nanny finger at you because, of course, I guess she wasn't left. Oh, my goodness. Anyway, I don't think Bridget Bordeaux is in any way worried about that in the great beyond. And for my money, I don't think she was worried about that while she was amongst the living. So, shrug it off. Brush your shoulders off, Bridget. Just common street trash, being common street trash. But that's not really what we wanted to talk about this evening. We got so much to get into, and I know I've said that 4 times. I'm going to try to stop it. The mainstay is, of course, what ABC News was peddling in their Times Square coverage. And it really plays right into old Spectre there. What was this chick's name? I've already stricken it from my mind. Emma Spectre. Emma Spectre. It really plays right into the usual suspect buffet of buffoonery lifestyle of trash that Bridget Bordeaux was not a part of, but Emma Spectre was clearly bathing in. So we'll get into that and how they all sort of connect. But more to the point, I really wanted to get into the moving of the Overton window, the social conditioning. What's that other word I was groping for in the dark? Cultural Marxism. Thanks. It was in there somewhere. And now all that really plays into what we are seeing 8 days a week and twice on Sunday. But more to the point, how it's reflected in our perceptions of New Year's. Because New Year's Eve is vastly seen, and rightly so, because it plays into the worship of Janus. Because Janus, as I mentioned on the last show, the worship of the Roman god, Janus, was punctuated by a lot of booze, spilling, and swilling. And it was also punctuated by vows every year of what you're going to do or not do in the following year. So on the individual level, I think people follow the worship of Janus under the guise of New Year's and actually do place a lot of emphasis on being drunk trash. And of course, on making those proverbial vows for the new year. Everybody's going to lose weight. The gyms are flooded for a couple of weeks with all these obese people that are seeking to make a change. And I heard this once long ago from a wise man in a gym who I used to know. Shout out to Joe if you're out there. Joe said this lovely little quip that the gym makes it grow, but the kitchen makes it show. Quite apropos, Joe. So what old Joe was trying to tell me there, what I basically already knew, but in case you missed it, all the working out in the world ain't going to stop the battle of the bulge that you're waging internally. If you're still doing the same old song. And the same thing with the parasites as well. The parasite cleanses are only as good as your dietary changes. And they can't be short-lived. That's why the diet don't work. It's a lifestyle change, not a diet change. So I say all that to say this, folks. You got to cut out the seed oils. You got to cut out the carbs. You got to cut out the GMO, the non-organic, the bug bits, and all the other garbage. La basura. In a supermercado. You got to throw all that jive in the garbage, baby. Do it. You don't need that mess. I know some people are thinking, oh, when the revolution comes, I might need this. No, you don't, man. Throw all that refuse in the refuse pile. Go on that Asian diet if you want to. Just get yourself a bunch of rice and a bunch of beans. You'll probably be all right. Remember the two sisters from the Mesoamerican cultures? They would grow the corn and the beans together, and the corn would rise and the beans would grow up the beanstalk, and that's all legit, for real and truth. But you might not also need some quinoa too. Get you some quinoa. It's way better than that rice, even the brown rice. Not to be rice racist, but I'm more fan friendly to quinoa, don't you know? Anyway, you didn't come here to do cooking with Irma. You came here to talk about some New Year, some Año Nuevo. New look, same agenda. So how this works is a lot of people look at this on the individual, but the powers that be, those upper tier puppeteers, they're looking at this on the cultural or on the societal. Man, I was going to pull up the two etymologies of society. It's kind of crazy if you look into it. I'm going to have to do that on another show because I don't have that pulled up, and I don't want to give you the wrong information. Nay, not today. Not this way. We shan't, folks. We'll cover some of these news bits and bobs, and then I will succinctly tie it up in a nice little bow and pull the ribbons on it for you. Los lazos in the end. All right, so let's pull the obvious here. This is from ABC, their coverage of Times Square, and I'm going to show you what they were showing you on your screen, your individual telescreen, you know. All right, let's pull it up. Somebody's freaking out. And I'll play-by-play it for you. Okay, play-by-play it for you. Because somebody ain't listening, or excuse me, they're not watching it. They're just listening to it. All right, so the first thing they're showing you as the clock strikes midnight, as the ball descends to its final destination. Ground floor, don't you know? Tercer piso. What we got going on is an obvious person of color smooching with a blanco. Oh my. I didn't see that. I didn't see that coming. Did you? I mean, of course, that's all you see in every sort of advertisement, every sort of television show, every sort of infomercial, every sort of way they can package and repackage the obvious, the degradation, destruction, and otherwise implosion of anything blanco. Don't say it, John. Just say blanco. Okay, I will. Anything blanco is malo. But los colores son buenos. You feel me, folks? The blancos are bad, but the colors are good. Especially if those colors are mixing in with the blancos. Here's the funny part, though. You know this is obviously a Little Hats orchestrated deal because you never see, hear, nor even get an inclination of anyone of the Jewish origin, ancestry, or locale mixing in with anyone of any other race, nationality, nor ancestry. That's only for Los Blancos. You don't see that amongst the Amish. You don't see that amongst the Asians. You don't see that amongst the Indians. And you don't even hardly see that among the Hispanic. But you know who it's always good for? Los Blancos. Just so you know. So that's what we're seeing first and foremost on our screen. But wait, there's more. Because then they fade to the Invisible Man. Great story. And I love the old school movie as well. Not the Hollow Man version, but I like the old school black and white Invisible Man version. So we went to the first scene, person of color, and now we've gone to Invisible Man, which is pretty funny. I mean, I guess they were hoping that it would just be some moronic imbecile with their slave shackle on, still repping like it's COVID times. But maybe they couldn't find somebody that was just repping a slave shackle. So they meant, man, we don't have anyone with a slave shackle on. What we do have is someone dressed as the Invisible Man. So there you go. Invisible Man. Let's move on. Confetti falls, confetti falls. Oh, my heavens, we've got some homosexual kissing on the screen. Oh, my. Oh, dear. Heavens to Betsy, heavens to Murgatroyd, how shocking. So you got that, folks. Their big lead, and I'm not going to give you the whole 9, but I mean, that's what their main pan was on the homosexual males besindo, doing a little smoochy there on New Year's Eve in the wake of the ball drop in New York City. Times Square, don't you know? So that's what we had going on. That was the big thing that everybody was just having a love fest about. I was going to show you this video, but it didn't even bear watching really. But it was Scott Van Pelt, a la ESPN. If he's still got a job tomorrow, he must have done something, Scott, because you might not have a job tomorrow, because they showed this little montage that I just showed you at ESPN up there in Connecticut. Pink is out. Connecticut, folks. They showed you a little montage of the exact same thing I showed you in Connecticut. And Scott Van Pelt was all too happy, full of glee. He might have been even a little gay about the whole thing until they showed you, or rather showed him what I just showed you. You know, I'm talking about a little basso, a little this or that. Let's go big screen, because nobody, yeah, they showed a little of that on the screen. And old Scott Van Pelt was obviously kind of like, oh my heavens, what the? Scott Van Pelt was clearly not down with the get down. He was clearly like, ooh, I ain't trying to see two guys making out on New Year's Eve. That's not for me. And it ain't for Scott Van Pelt either. So I say that hopefully Scott Van Pelt is still working at ESPN tomorrow. I don't know. You never can tell. But what I do know is I went down a rabbit hole just a little bit with this whole thing today. And I was trying to find a good image to put on the show artwork. You know, this one. I was trying to find a good image to put on the show artwork. And I wanted that image from 2026. You know, the first few moments of that year, the first day of the year. And I was trying to find that exact image. And I actually ended up finding the image from 2024, which was very similar. And I went, what the heck is this? How can this be? This ain't the same dudes. And then I looked and it was 2024. And I went, what the jive turkey is this mess? Are they running the same op a couple years in a row just to move that Overton window? Well, that's exactly what they're doing, ladies, gentlemen, boys and girls. Humans of all ages, those of you who still identify as human, that's exactly what they did, folks. They went, we're going to run it back. We're going to run that same play again, year of our Lord, 2026. Because they did not get the exasperation, the invigoration, and I guess the approval in 2024. Maybe they got it in 2026. I feel like there's a lot more boobs in the room in 2026 than there was in 2024. So probably so. A lot more morons, ne'er-do-wells, carpetbaggers, buffoons, and otherwise imbeciles that are going along to get along. Shout out Kwame Brown in 2026 than there were in 2024. So I went down a rabbit hole a little bit. I'm going to show you this one on your screen. Yay. That's what we were seeing in 2024 as the new year rang out. And guess what? It was the same players in the same game. You feel me? Here, check this out. That is for same sponsor, Planet Fitness. Two gay dudes making out. Same deal. In this instance, 2024, it was even more socially acceptable. It was even more playing into all the harmonious PC things, the virtue signaling that you have to prescribe to or you're a bad person. Because in 2024, it was a black dude and a white dude. Somehow in 2025, it was two white dudes, allegedly. I ain't so sure, but I'm thinking those are two blancos. Could be a person of color in it, but I'm thinking those are two blancos. Maybe a little bit of Middle Eastern, maybe Hispanic. I'm thinking two blancos for sure. But not in 2024. It was a black dude and a white dude. So I went down the rabbit hole just a little bit to bring you some information. And here's what I found out. Here's what we got. It's much like we see with Mondani, actor in New York City. Trump, actor, as our commander-in-chief. Zelensky, actor, over there in Ukraine. So here's the deal. And I was only able to find cropped images until I did a little bit more searching, and I found this one. So here's the real deal on these chaps. Can we zoom in on a little bit? Because we want to see the whole deal of these fellows. Yeah, that's what we're looking for, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, humans of all ages. This is double ball drop. Throw in your double entendres here if you can, if you will, if you shall. So on the left of your screen, we've got Corin Christian. Corin Christian. It's always about blasphemy. It's all about the inversion of the normal, and it's always about a humiliation ritual. So Corin Christian is the black male on the left. And if you watch, as I did, like a little video on it, I believe it was from CNN. They interviewed these two guys, and he was labeled as a creator. I'm not sure what the devil that means. He was the more effeminate of the two. Black dude on the left, Christian Corin. White dude on the right, he is Jake Erickson, and he was labeled in the CNN piece as an actor. So follow with me if you can, because it's the same deal. It's the same deal. So we got 2026 on ABC. We got these gentlemen. I didn't pull up who they are. That's irrelevant, really. And then 2024, we got these gentlemen. ABC, same sponsor, Planet Fitness. You with me so far? We got an actor as El Blanco and a creator as El Otro. Yeah. Okay. Now, follow me down this rabbit hole a little bit, because you might be familiar. If you're not, you probably should look into it. Into these lovely hand symbols that they always see. And usually it's going to be something obvious, like the old, the hand in the lapel. You've seen that with George Washington. You've seen that with all these big figures over the years. Almost every image. I've seen them with Darwin. I've seen them with George Washington. I've seen it with Napoleon. It's always the same hand in the jacket. And it's a Masonic symbol, obviously. But now you're seeing more and more the eye coverage. Yep, this is my Illuminati ritual. Yep, eye coverage. Send me your money, Illuminati, please. And if they're not doing that, they're doing this lovely, there we go. This lovely sign right here. It's usually this kind of deal, which is what old Jake is doing there, Jake Erickson on the right. So Jake Erickson, obviously, I don't think I've ever seen him in anything. Maybe he's a struggling actor, and maybe he's just doing the go along to get along thing to show his allegiance to the NWO so he can move up the ladder quicker. He's a gay dude. He's showing his Illuminati allegiance. He went out on ABC, probably at the behest of Planet Fitness, to do this gay makeout session in 2024. So that's what's really going down with old Jake and Corin there. That's what's going down with these cats. And let me see. I don't want to lead you astray here. I'll put this one on the screen for you too, just so you can follow along with me, because it shows these two guys. This is from the CNN article. Well, actually, excuse me. This is the Pink News article, but it's taken a lot of bits from the CNN piece talking about how their actor, or at least the dude on the right is Jake. My bad, Jake. I didn't mean to leave you hanging there, bud. So both of these dudes, actors, and that's what we were seeing in 2024, year of our Lord. So in my humble opinion, it's just they're running the same play, folks. It's a humiliation ritual. It is let's test the waters in 2024. We're going to run the exact same play in 2025. We got some different cats involved. Everybody's forgotten about the 2024 thing, because 2024 people were getting a lot of, Jake and Corin, they were getting a lot of negative comments. Ooh, imagine that. Some gay dudes making out on New Year's Eve bash, ABC Times Square. That's your main piece, and people have kind of frowned upon it. I'm shocked that anybody frowned upon it, because we live in such a nation of cowards, sheep, and imbeciles. But I guess in 2024, it was a little bit of a, oh, what? Yeah. But fear not, because We're going to run the same doggone play a couple years later. And I looked into this because this was intriguing to me too. I was thinking to myself, Planet Fitness, if you've watched any of their jive in the last few years, it's all kinds of tranny pushing mess. If you remember the lady that got kicked out of the gym, I believe, and probably out of her contract with Planet Fitness because she was a female and in there trying to work out. And she, I guess, went into the female locker room and there was a dude in there. She was like, yo, why we got a dude in the women's room? And she made us think about it. And she got kicked out of Planet Fitness. And you probably saw this from a couple weeks ago when the guy was kicking people out because they were trying to close early, I guess. And somebody was having the audacity to use the gym during normal hours. And they actually, I guess, did kick the guy out. So they're all about pushing the LGBT not so silent beep agenda. They're all about just shoving that up your rear. So I got to wondering about this thing. Who in the devil was the owner of Planet Fitness? So I went down a rabbit hole a little bit more, and I found this knocking at my door. So it is Michael and Mark Grandal, Grondal. Mark and Michael were the two brothers, I'm assuming here, that were the owners, operators, everything of Planet Fitness up until about 2012. In 2012, they sold a majority of their business over to, you guessed it, a multinational corporation, to TSG Consumer Partners. Yeah. So they sold out to a consortium there, a private equity group. Sounded a little like BlackRock and sounded a little like all these other conglomerate corporations that are just buying up everything to fro and everywhere you happen to go and completely destroying it, because that's exactly what happened. So I did some look in there and we got Charles H. Hesserman as their executive CEO, Charles H. Hesserman. You might want to look into his name a little bit. You might want to look at a little bit more about old Charles H. I actually went down a little bit deeper on this, and to be in San Francisco-based company, which this is obviously, so they're going to be pushing this LGBT elemento not so silent P agenda. But oddly enough, Charles H. Esserman seemed to be supporting, I won't even say conservative candidates because that doesn't mean a hill of beans anymore, but he was at least giving monies to conservative parties over the last 10, 15 years. But it didn't really mean a heck of a lot. It was folks like McCain. I can't remember who was the other boob that was. Let me see if I can find it real quick. There we go. Pull up that one for you. It was McCain and Mitt Romney. That was him. So he was definitely giving some money to McCain and Mitt Romney. These aren't conservatives. These are just commie trash wearing a different colored hat and, with a stupid different mascot behind him, I guess. But one of the other ones that they were clearly communist was Downtown for Democracy. They apparently gave some money to them in 2018. So when you look at old Charles H. Esserman, you should obviously know, I don't know. I'm not going to go out on a limb and say gay, straight. Otherwise, I'm not going to go out on a limb and say what he's affiliated with party-wise, because those donations don't mean jack. San Francisco tells me a lot. That would definitely give you a big wink and a nod to the kind of jive turkey mess that they're obviously peddling, which is a lot like this. So it doesn't surprise me at all to see, know, and appreciate what Planet Fitness is all about. I knew that before. And then sort of playing connect the dots here, 2024 and again in 2026, they're pushing that same old bull jive, folks. And here's a big wake-up call. You don't just get those things shown all over national and international television without some okay from somewhere. Because I guarantee you, if the camera panned to two conservatives out there with a MAGA hat on, that would be no bueno for those folks at Planet Fitness. They would have had a spell, and that would have never, ever happened on that big of a broadcast. So they're definitely picking their audience. They're picking the agenda that they're trying to push. That's very much prima facie with what I've already shown you, from the previous there. When we went through and showed all the different video montages, person to color, making out with a white chick, dude looked like he's the Invisible Man. I guess they were hoping that they could pander to those morons that are still imbued with the sickness that is the COVID hoax. And then they had to go gay dudes making out for their final crescendo coup de grace to really round in the new year. So that's really what we got to talk about. But that's really shallow into the pool, because someone's going, John, you already covered this, man. We already know the deal. You just kind of took us a little further down the rabbit hole, and perhaps maybe Eve and we wanted to go. But that's not really it, folks. That's not really the reason for the season. Anoche, not tonight. Because what this is all about is conditioning, folks. It's social conditioning. So if you look at this, it's a gradual movement of the Overton window. I looked at some comments today. People talking about this, like, oh, my mom was in the room and she was disgusted by it. And other people say, oh, this would have never happened 10 years ago. Would have never happened 20 years ago. It would not have. You are correct. Absolutely correct, folks. And what this is all emblematic of is a gradual, and they've kind of just, they've gone from not gradual anymore to almost light speed of the movement of the Overton window. I've talked about this 8 days a week, twice on Sunday on this show. So if this is new to you, then check all the old shows. I'll give you the encapsulation Cliff Notes version tonight. I would submit to you that easily since the 1960s, we have seen a orchestrated move of the Overton window. It is indeed cultural Marxism. There's no other way to look at it. And the irony of ironies is, when I first kind of looked into a lot of this stuff 10, 15 years ago, the notion of cultural Marxism online was some sort of like, it was akin to pseudoscience. It was akin to conspiracy. It was perhaps akin to phrenology or something. People believe this cultural Marxism jag. It ain't so funny anymore because it's all in your face. It's all prima facie. This is nothing new under the sun anymore, folks. This is just the norm. So people would be quick 15 years ago plus to look at the Cloward and Piven theory. Cloward and Piven, if I'm not mistaken, a husband and wife team. Sociologists, I'm pretty sure, but they could have been psychologists. My brain's a little fuzzy on that one. But this came out in the 1960s, the Cloward and Piven theory. The destruction of the society, of the culture, and of its norms, most specifically, by hijacking the popular culture of the day, by hijacking the institutions and destroying them from within. If you connect a whole lot of dots here, it's very emblematic. It's the exact same playbook of the Antonio Gramsci works that you're going to see in, it's usually depicted in literature called the prison notebooks. Antonio Gramsci, communist, early 1900s Italy. He was in prison for being a communist piece of trash, but his works lived on. So the Antonio Gramsci works, that's what you're going to see early 1900s. And that's really the playbook of the cultural Marxism, the German system that really became the norm in Chicago and in New York. The Frankfurt School, in case this is new to you, the Frankfurt School. Frankfurt, Germany is where this is coming from. So, kind of starting out with Gramsci, moving into Frankfurt School, Frankfurt, Germany, getting supplanted and put into, especially Chicago, especially New York, hijacking every single arm of academia. As I've said ad nauseum on this show, it's K through 12 indoctrination, college, university weaponization. So that's the primary movers and shakers that are moving what's referred to as the Overton window. If this is new to you, again, Overton window, the things that are accepted, the norms within a society. So in any sort of societal construct, it kind of plays on the binary opposition that we've talked about forever and a day, the binary opposition of Claude Levi-Strauss. And you put that, of course, into the communist blender and shake it up, and you'll get the proletariats and the bourgeoisie from Marx and Engels, of course, predating the work of Claude Levi-Strauss. But again, it's kind of all predicated on that binary opposition. We have to supplant the ruling class, the bourgeoisie, and the only way we do that is through the struggle and overthrow by the proletariat, the working class. The irony of ironies is the working class is then just supplanted with state-run control of production. So nobody owns jack. At the end, it's a dictatorial state-run owning the means of production. It's antithetical to logic if you really break it down and look at it, but I don't want to take you down through the weeds of theory here. So we've looked at the Cloward and Piven. We've looked at sort of where it came from, Frankfurt School, all the way back to Gramsci, prison notebooks, struggle out of the Marx and Engels, throwing in a little bit of Claude Levi-Strauss, binary opposition. All this is what's really going on, folks. So in order to move that Overton window, you slowly infiltrate the system, infiltrate the institutions. Just like we heard with Gramsci, just like we saw with Cloward and Piven theory from the 1960s, that's what they're doing, folks. It's the movement of the Overton window subtly. But since the 1960s, it's very much been an obvious move of the Overton window. If you look at early 1960s, you see the advent of the birth control pill. You weave that in with the free love, sexual revolution. That was all 1960s. I always forget this guy's name. I'll look it up. Always forget this guy's name. Always forget this fool's name, man. I swear. Dang it. What is this guy's name? Somebody out there's already turned it off. Darn it. This guy's name, it's on the tip of my tongue, and now it's gone. Judith Reisman, Dr. Reisman. It did so much on this boob. Judith Reisman. Come on, man. This Kinsey. Dang it, that's his name, Kinsey. Kinsey was the guy out of Indiana University that really predated the sexual revolution because, of course, that really began in the 1960s. That began with the advent of the pill that was woven in with the CIA use of drugs on college campuses, peddling that with the electric Kool-Aid acid test. You saw further the normalization and the dropping of taboos and sexual mores in the 1950s with Playboy magazine, which was Hugh Hefner, more CIA, straight obvious CIA stuff. You saw the rock and roll switch from a more black-oriented music to merge within white culture with folks like Elvis, 1950s. That's all part of the CIA plan as well, moving the Overton window a little bit and a little bit and a little bit. By the time we see 1960s, we have a prefabricated counterculture coming out of LA, coming out of San Francisco. You're probably all very familiar with what was going on in LA, especially, but the San Francisco stuff's kind of self-evident. The flowers in your hair, you know, the dark stories from inside the canyon. Yep, dark stories within the canyon. That's going to be, oh, this gentleman, I so wanted to get him on the show, David McGowan. He died from a very aggressive cancer and just a years there. Was it turbo cancer? Anyway, weird scenes inside the canyon, Laurel Canyon, covert ops, and the dark heart of the hippie dream. That'd be David McGowan. He did a lot of great stuff. He did some work on the obvious prefabricated serial killer movement that came out in the 1960s as well. I would suggest, and all the evidence is very clear to me, that again was a piece of the CIA mind control, MK Ultra, woven in with the COINTELPRO, the Operation Chaos. All this was going on, a very heavily drug-fueled out of the SS and the German scientists that were brought over during Operation Paperclip a couple decades before that. We really saw that kind of merging in the 1960s and really just decimating the Overton window. throwing drugs into the culture, throwing hippie music and just garbage rock into the culture. Really, it became, I would say, emblematic of the first real stages of pop culture and of adolescence really being a thing. So we saw that all fueled in with the Vietnam War, typified here, there, and everywhere with very, very public executions. We got MLK, RFK, JFK, Malcolm X. You roll into the 70s, you got John Lennon. And by the 70s, you really saw most of the big 60s stars, especially early 70s, just being snuffed out or dying, quote unquote, from different drug-related wink, wink things. You got Jimi Hendrix, Mama Cass, Jim Morrison, just to name a few. So all that was going on to move that Overton window. So I would say the 1960s was like the honeymoon phase of counterculture, drug-addled, sex, garbage culture. The 70s kind of became the hangover decade. A lot of people died. A lot of people picked up bigger drug habits. And the foundation of legacy rock was kind of laid in the 1970s. Anybody that was left from the 50s and 60s really became the first fledgling legacy acts of the 1970s. You roll that in with a whole lot more speed, lewds, coke, crank, and the like from the 70s, and that'll take us into the 80s, gradually moving the Overton window again and again and again. So all these different elements that would never have even been close to palatable in the 40s, 50s, that was just norm and commonplace by the time we rolled into the 80s. So by the time we rolled into the 80s, it was second into third wave feminism. It was definitely gay rights movements. It was red, black, and everybody you could pull out of the hat rights movements. It was the subordination of anything that would be considered Christendom, anything white culture, anything heterosexual culture. All that was becoming taboo by the 1980s. Again, the movement of the Overton window. So everything that was once taboo within the culture, everything once that was deviant within the culture, it only took about 20 years, maybe 25 tops, to really have flipped the script, and everything deviant is now normal. Everything taboo is now commonplace. So that's really what we got going on by the time we roll into the 1980s. So somebody's going, whoo, you covered a whole lot in a short amount of time, John. And yes, I did. So you might want to take some notes. You might want to jot this stuff down, hit pause, rewind if you need to. Because this is exactly what's playing into the nonsense that they just delivered to you. Yeah. That's who. There we go. That's what we're trying to get to. So it was just more of the same last night, folks. It was more of the same, trying to move that Overton window, trying to socially engineer the populace. Cultural Marxism at its finest. Because a lot of times people think cultural Marxism, they're expecting to see something out of Rocky IV. They're expecting to see, the red Russians with the hammer and sickle. And okay, that's cute and everything. But it's kind of like I've talked about so many times on this show. When you think of what evil is, a lot of people in their own mind's eye are going to look at, like, comically, mind you, like early Motley Crue with Shout at the Devil. They're going to think of Venom with In League with Satan and these sort of things. But you should probably be thinking more along the lines of the pop stars that you've seen for the last 60 plus years. That would be the actual Satanists. That would be the actual people practicing the dark arts. In case you missed it, folks. Fleetwood Mac, I've touched on them last few episodes because I can't even think of this singer's name. The boob that was out there touting her pro-abortion stance. So glad I got an abortion early on because Fleetwood Mac was just on the precipice of stardom. And I just saw I had a baby and I had to kill it. Had to do the proper sacrifice so that the band could play on. And if you've seen any clips of Fleetwood Mac in the last couple of days, you probably have, because it's online with the comical stuff that you've seen from David Lee Roth, the comical stuff that you've seen from Vince Neil. And I say comical, it's not comical. It's downright sad because these people have a contract to fulfill. they have to keep playing their role as the star well into their 60s, 70s, and well on beyond that if they're still alive. They have to keep their contractual obligation to the dark arts. Because one sacrifice isn't enough. You have to keep on sacrificing. Just as Fleetwood Mac sacrificed the blood of the innocent and killed a baby there early on in their career, it's the same sort of thing. You still have to keep sacrificing. It's never enough, folks. Too much is never enough. That's just the plain hard truth of it. And that's exactly what we're going to keep on seeing. So back to what I was trying to explain there, the cultural Marxism isn't 1980, whatever it was, Rocky IV with Drogoff and the hammer and sickle. That's just what they want you to think it is. Cultural Marxism isn't about the hammer and the sickle. It ain't even about the proletariats and the bourgeoisie. The real point of cultural Marxism, the real point of the Cloward and Piven theory, the real point of the Frankfurt School is the destruction of the norms within the culture. That's what critical theory and the Frankfurt School is all about. It's all about typifying the proletariat and bourgeoisie. Oh, look how different everybody is. Let's destroy the normal and supplant it with the abnormal, the evil, the satanic, the antichrist. Okay, folks, you want me to break it down to you as dark as possible? That's what it's all about. It's all about the inversion of the Christendom and the inversion of the normal. Where the normal person would say, we got to protect babies, we got to keep them safe. The Antichrist version of that is, no, you can kill babies. That's what abortion is all about. It's all about sacrificing the child. Whereas the Christendom natural worldview would say man and woman join, they marry, they procreate, and flourish as a working unit. They say, no, you scum, you Christian filth. That's not what it's all about. It's all about doing what thou wilt is the whole of the law, says Aleister Crowley, prominently featured on Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. His humble abode was, of course, purchased by Jimmy Page, Led Zeppelin's guitarist, and their artwork and their music replete with the occult. So no, it's not man and woman united, flourishing, having a family. It's men with women. It's men with men. It's women with men. It's women with women. It's animals. It's incest. It's the whole 9 yards because it's all free love, bro. Don't you know? That's what the 60s selling point was all about. It's free love. You can do what you want. Take the pill, take a bunch of LSD, smoke a bunch of weed. It's fine. Copulate with anybody in the commune, man. That was one of the tenets that was quite evident and obvious that you saw with the Manson family. If you don't know what's up with them, you should probably look into the history of the Manson family because that was as CIA as you can get. It's all about moving the Overton window. In the 1960s, you also saw the advent of the serial killer culture. By the end of the 70s, you were all into the whole 9 yards. You had the Manson family, you had all kinds of other bozos popping up and cropping up all along the scene. Got into the Hillside Strangler. You got into Ted Bundy. By the end that you got into the 90s, you got into Dahmer. In the 80s, you got the Night Stalker, Richard Ramirez. These folks just seem to crop up overnight. Where'd they come from? They didn't seem to be there in the 30s or in the 40s or even in the 50s. Where did they come from, folks? I know somebody, a serial killer, fact-checking me and saying, what about Ed Gein? Yes, he did predate all that. I'm not saying it never existed. I'm saying it flourished. It was allowed to foster or fester. Perhaps that's more accurate. It was fostered and allowed to fester within the culture of the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and beyond. FBI says, I think every state is supposed to have at least 2 serial killers in it. Just operating on the regular whenever you out and about, doing some fun shopping with a family. Keep that in mind, folks. You probably got 2 serial killers somewhere in your state hunting prey. Quite possibly funded and covered up by the CIA. I mean, that's how they did it with Manson. That wasn't his first rodeo. Manson was an old timer, folks. Manson was not the young hip whippersnapper that should have been hanging out in the 60s. No, he was an older guy even then. but he got put in all the right places at all the right times. He was allowed to flourish. Look into that, man. So it's a rabbit hole we don't have time to get into on this episode. So we got the obvious, the movement of the Overton window, the Cloward and Piven, Marxist, cultural Marxism. That's what we got going on. So when you see stuff like this, when you see these two dudes making out on New Year's Eve last night, I don't know why you'd be watching that garbage in the first place. That's what the point of it all is. That's it, folks. And if you missed anything from last night was a humiliation ritual too, man. They had Diana Ross up there. I believe she's in her 80s. Up there still singing the hits, man. Contractual obligations. And any of the kind of contracts you're thinking of, folks, this is not the legal binding contracts like your Social Security number. No. This is contractual obligations on a whole different realm. That's why you still see who was it? I saw about like 5-10 minutes of this bull jive. I think the only person that I saw up there that was even remotely relevant, and I say relevant as meaning it was awful music. They had Post Malone up there doing his country guy act. This is a boob that first came out as some of this, barely passing as post mumble rap. Post Malone was up there doing his hip hop shtick about 10 years ago, and now he has transformed like a rainbow in the dark. Now old Posty Post is doing his country shtick. So he was, I guess, the least bit relevant. And who's that other dude? Mr. Worldwide. Mr. Worldwide. Pitbull was up there. He's just funny. He looks like he's having a good time. But then you also had the Go-Go Dolls. Shout out to this. I don't even want to say his name. This cat named Dave I used to work with a long ago. He's probably in prison by now, man. Used to always say the Go-Go Dolls back in the 90s when this crap was warm crap as opposed to cold crap, which is what it is now. And then, of course, you had Diana Ross up there singing the hits, and it was just it's a montage of sadness. Every time I had the misfortune of kind of like flipping through the dials or cutting something on New Year's Eve for like 10 minutes, which is what I've done the last 2-3 years. Like 10 minutes is all I can take. 10 minutes of this bull jive. And you just feel bad. You're just like, oh my God. It's kind of the bull jive you just saw on your screen there with these two dudes making out. That was bad enough. And then you got to witness these legacy acts still trying to pipe out the hits. And it's just, why, folks? Why? You never saw this. I guarantee you turned on 1960s television New Year's Eve specials with Dick Clark. You weren't going to see music from the 30s. There's no way in bleep you were seeing music from the 30s on television in the 1960s. But that's where we're at now. And we're at that now because the current music is such dreaded boulder dash. Just complete feces festival. Just terrible. I always hear people complain like, oh, I wish they'd play these older acts at the Super Bowl. I guess, like, sure. Would I rather see Metallica or whatever the newest satanic garbage that's going to be at the Super Bowl this year? I guess. Still kind of sad, but sure. I'd rather hear Master of Puppets than whatever satanic gay tranny bull jive they're going to show you at the Super Bowl this year. Same thing with the New Year's thing, man. It's always here's some legacy act crap from 30 plus years ago. And then here's some tranny gay satanic bull jive to just imbue that into the next generation and pass it off as normal. Move the Overton window a little bit more and everybody will go along with it. Oh, okay. So then like the millennials and the people that are whatever this generation of garbage is that are in their 20s and teens now, they probably already sat through the 2024 gay kiss. So when they see the gay kiss at 2026, they're like, oh, well, there's some gay dudes making out on New Year's Eve, ABC primetime. So it becomes commonplace, just as the drug deluge, the free sex, the crap music of the 60s and 70s and beyond, just as that became just the way it is. This is commonplace. This is how much everything sucks. It's just the norm. So if you look at 50s culture, if you look at, we'll say 1959 culture juxtaposed to 1969 culture, they may as well have been on a different planet. Different planet, folks. You look at the like Ozzie and Harriet, Donna Reed, 1950s mess, and then juxtapose that to, I've touched on it so many times. It takes a thief where it's the rise of the anti-hero. It takes a criminal to catch these people. Oh, it's like the 60s version of Dexter, where you got people rooting for the killer, rooting for the thief, rooting for the bad guy. And that just became emblematic of the culture. It became the norm. So then when you kick the can down the road 20 years, everybody's cool with just anti-hero, with just, well, sometimes you just got to kill somebody. Well, sometimes you just got to do a little blow. Well, sometimes you're just going to be a drunk piece of trash and kill somebody. I mean, it's commonplace now, folks. It's commonplace. That's why it's become normalized within college culture to just be a promiscuous, drunk, druggy piece of garbage. And don't worry, you'll pay hundreds of thousands of dollars for it and urinate 5 years of your life away. Instead of going into an apprenticeship, instead of going into entrepreneurship, instead of it just going out and working at a blipping car wash, for God's sakes. You'd probably be better off. But they've chastised people that do the aforementioned three things. Oh, you can't just be an entrepreneur. You've got to get a business. Oh my God. You can't just work for yourself and being an apprentice for a few years. You've got to go out and go to college. Huh? This is just more of the rise of the intellectual class. The rise of the do-nothings, but know a little something. What's that old adage for, I think it was usually college professors? Those who can't do, teach. There's a lot of truth in that, folks. There's a lot of people overly specialized in one particular thing. Overly specialized in astronomy. Oh, I know a lot about the stars. Can't find my butt with both hands. Can't change a light bulb nor a tire, but I can tell you all about the celestial orbs. Know a whole lot about chemistry. Can't even vacuum your house. Can't probably plant even a sunflower to grow in your yard, but you can tell me all about chemistry. And this is also just part of the move of the Overton window. That's why K through 12 indoctrination, college, university weaponization works, because people through second wave feminism have been taught that they have to go into the workplace. They have been taught that being a mom is bad, being a father is bad. So you park your kids with the K through 12 indoctrination. And they're taught by these sort of ne'er-do-well scum that just promulgate this filth. Susie has two mommies or whatever this kind of bull jive is. All the pornographic, gay, tranny mess that's all over public schools. And then after 13 years of this garbage, then you go into the university system and then they weaponize it. They say, well, did you know it's all bad? These darn white devils and their stupid Christianity. They're the ones that brought slavery. They're the ones that killed the Indians. They're the ones that did everything bad on the face of this stupid planet, folks. What they don't tell you is they're actually the ones that did everything to benefit the stupid planet. They're the ones that ended slavery. They're the ones that actually protected the Native Americans in the end and tried to help them. They're the ones that actually brought their stupid pipe dream of equity into even a glimmer of existence. They're the people that brought the rise of the nation state, the advent of having a surplus and not living hand to mouth. But don't worry, you'll never get that in the K through 12 indoctrination, college, university weaponization. You'll just get taught what a dark lot of garbage you are. I can't buy it. We hate you. I should have pulled this up, man. I should have pulled this up on the screen. Darn it. There's no way I can pull it off right now, I don't think. Let me see if I can find it real quick because somebody's going to freak out. Because I was thinking to myself just the other day, like, where did a lot of these stupid terms come from? And this notion of the melting pot came up. And I was like, huh, that's very funny. Where did this notion of a melting pot actually come from? Can we see any of this on the screen? Yes, we can. Let me see if I can show it to you real quick, because this might be shocking, might not be. But there was an actual book, as there always is, that coincides with a lot of these stupid terms and theories. And I didn't even know this. I was, as usual, man, I love finding out new information because I like to learn. But it was this notion of a melting pot. Darn it, where is that book? I wasn't even thinking about it. And then I was like, holy shnikes, I should actually talk about this. Come on, where is that darn book at? Dang it. There it is. It's called The Melting Pot. See if I can pull this up for you. Copy image. Let's see if I can put it over here where it needs to be. As I thought about it in a fleeting moment, and then it was gone. There we go. Put it on the screen for those lovely ladies and gentlemen in the audience. The Melting Pot. Get that out of here. God knows we don't want to see any more of that. The Melting Pot, the great American drama. And you might be thinking, who in the devil wrote this bit? By Israel Zangwill. The Melting Pot, the great American drama. This just might be a little food for thought for you folks. Might be a little food for thought. Because a lot of times we end up repeating the same dogma that we've been taught. Just like I've been trying to say for this episode. We repeat the same dogma that we've been taught, K through 12 indoctrination, college, university weaponization. And that, whether we know it or not, it moves the Overton window. Because before this book, The Melting Pot, the great drama, where did this thing come out? Let's see. I know it's going to tell us something here. Melting Pot is a famous 1908 play by Israel Zangwill that popularized the metaphor of America as a melting pot. 1908. So a lot of times we think that we know where these things come from. We think, you always hear this separation of church and state, separation of church and state. It's not in the Constitution. It's not in the Bill of Rights. No. Not at all. It's actually in a letter written to a pastor talking about how Christendom should be protected and that the state could not inhibit Christians from being Christians. Not exactly how you hear this whole thing play out now, is it? So the melting pot metaphor, which we've all probably heard of. Heck, most of us probably said this. We're a melting pot. We're a nation of immigrants. It came from the 1908 Israel Zangwill, Zangwill. Israel Zangwill. His little book, his little play, just throwing that out into the lexicon. So you got to look at where these thoughts came from, where these metamorphic ideas came from. Separation of church and state. We're all one big melting pot. It's no big deal. It's just dudes making out. It's no big deal to kill your baby. It's just your right to choose. You got to look at where these things came from, where these ideas came from, and how that subtle shift, the movement of the Overton window, the cultural acclamation to these very antithetical satanic thoughts. Where did they come from? Look into it, folks. Look into it. You can't do everything, but you can do something. Get out there, do your part, make a difference, and I'll be seeing you sooner than later in the Anomic Age.
Thank you for listening to The Anomic Age, a John Age project. For past shows, further info, and to comment, go to anomicage.com. That's ANOMICAGE.com. Till next time, thank you for listening to The Anomic Age.